I'm like, I have two or three chapters to go into the Confessions. I'm almost done. It's such a long read. Like the first half is incredible. And then the second half is just like obscure. He's talking about like the function of your memory and how like your memory and God relate and stuff. And it's like, what? Dude, what are you talking about?
Do you think that like he was still in the later part of his book, he's still like processing and thinking through some things, and these are just kind of like underbaked ideas? Or is this just something that's so advanced that's like beyond you?
He's actively thinking through stuff. Like he's saying, I don't know a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And he's very much bearing his heart and what he thinks about. It's super transparent.
Yeah.
And like, it's like a glance into his internal monologue. It's super interesting. Like he's not giving you this like well sanded, well polished, theologically in-depth concept of like, this is how it is, this is how everything works, whatever. He's like, this is who I am, and this is what God did for me, and God's awesome, and I am kind of a mess. And that's
how
basically
does he have
the
time to
Confessions.
do all that? Because I would really like to do that, but I have to make money.
Well, he was a bishop. He was the bishop of Hippo, so his needs were taken care of, but I don't know if he had that many needs and expenses, you know. He lived a very simple life on the whole, that's the impression that I get from his works.
Yeah. People lived such simple lives back then. That's why they had so much like freedom to be able to write and do things like that.
And also like he was a professional Christian. I mean, he was a bishop, right? Like that was his job on some level, you know?
Yeah.
And he wasn't making money, he was serving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the church took care of him in that sense.
How does a guy like Augustine go from pursuing wealth, success, sex, all this, to being like, oh, I really want to be a bishop? Like, not just like becoming a Christian and still being like a Christian businessman, but he's like, I'm going to be a Christian and I'm just going to mop floors all day, counsel people for the rest of my life.
Well, you have to read the Confessions to get the whole story. Yeah. However, I'll give you the TLDR. A lot of what's driving him is two things. First, his wanting to understand the world and how it works. So he's super deep into philosophy, and he gets caught up in like Manichaeism, and people are talking about astrology around him, and he's trying to figure it out. And he's realizing that their view of the world makes no sense. And he's constantly trying to get deeper and deeper at what's at the root of the world. He's basically continually pulling closer and closer to God because he knows he can't make sense of the world without God, but he can't make sense of the Christian conception of God, largely because he doesn't understand it, right? So as he starts learning more and more about Christianity, he realizes, oh, this actually makes sense of the world that I live in. At the same time, his intense personal sin and his flaws are really messing on his conscience, right?
Yeah.
So a combination between his search to understand God cognitively and his intense personal need for God results in this huge breakdown he has where he realizes he has to let go of all of his sin. Mm-hmm. And he has to turn to God because that's the only way he can be reconciled with God. A God who's not just an abstract philosophical God, but a God who is in history as well. Mm-hmm. And how he becomes basically he goes to a church in Hippo and they tell him in the middle of the service, everybody says, hey, Augustine, you should be a bishop. And he's like, what? Why me? And they make him a bishop that day. And he didn't sign up for it. They just kind of made him a bishop. And he's like, okay, I guess. He just wanted to be a monastic Christian who did monastic things and minded his own business. And they were like, nope, you're in charge now. Congratulations. That was not a very gentlemanly thing of God to do to Augustine, was it?
So it wasn't really his choice, but that's kind of how things ended up.
Augustine said, we have no rest until we find our rest in you. Right. So his whole life, he's driving to figure his life out and get all of those things you talked about: riches, fame, sex. A lot of he was pursuing rhetoric because he wanted to be a famous rhetorician. Right. And he wanted to make friends with government officials. And all of that just absolutely fell apart because he knew that he needed God. Mm-hmm. And that's how that happens.
That's fascinating. I do want to read Confessions. It's just so advanced.
It's not that hard. You can just skip
the things
portions.
that you want. Yeah.
But Confessions is one of those things like you can skip around it a lot and get most of the good out of it. I actually have a nice little version. It's called Late Have I Loved Thee, and it's excerpts from Augustine about love, and it has the important bits of the Confessions in it.